If you only count games against playoff teams, the Eagles offense ranks 31st in the NFL. That's worse than Dylan Gabriel's Browns or the Tennessee Titans. They're averaging barely 15 points per game against playoff teams. For a team that was favored and expected to go back-to-back, this is one of the most embarrassing stats I've ever seen. Last year versus playoff teams, they scored over double the amount of points that they scored this year with over 31 points per game, including 55 to beat the Commanders and go to the Super Bowl and 40 in the Super Bowl. So this isn't some small drop off. This is a complete collapse from the Eagles offense, which brings us to the obvious question: what changed? It definitely was not the offensive firepower. They still have the best running back in the NFL, last year's offensive player of the year, Saquon Barkley. AJ Brown's a freak of nature. Devontae Smith is the Heisman winner, and last year's Super Bowl MVP isn't going anywhere. So it definitely isn't a talent issue, but let's take a look at the offensive line. Mekhi Becton left in free agency to go to the Chargers, and that makes a difference, but not a 37 points per game in playoff games last year to now a 15 points per game versus playoff teams this year. Not that big of a difference. So maybe it's not the personnel, it's not the players, but maybe it's their mentality. Maybe the team got soft. They lost their edge. They have a Super Bowl hangover from last year. No, and no. This team didn't get soft. They have some of the hardest workers in the entire NFL, and you can see the expressions on these players' faces when they're losing. They are giving it everything they've got. The truth and the only logical explanation is that they went from Kellen to Kevin. Last year's offensive coordinator Kellen Moore is now the head coach of the Saints, and we knew there was going to be a drop off, but we didn't know it was going to be this bad. New offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo inherited one of the best talent groups in the entire NFL, coming off of a Super Bowl, and made them look like a high school team with no chemistry. Kevin's been good at one thing and one thing only, and we have to give him credit for it. The red zone offense for the Philadelphia Eagles has been the best scoring offense in the entire NFL this year, but that's just the thing. They haven't been able to get to the red zone very much in these important games. In between the 20s, this has been one of the worst teams in all of football, which is absolutely inexcusable based on how much talent this team has offensively. Eagles fans have been rioting and calling for Kevin to get fired, asking head coach Nick Sirianni to be the one who actually calls the plays, but Coach Sirianni is on record saying that there will not be an offensive coordinator change at least this season, and he will not take over calling plays either. So how is it even possible for this team to make it to a Super Bowl, to try to win back-to-back, to be an explosive offense like we saw last year in the playoffs? Is it even possible this season to get back to that team that once was, or to even replicate it in any way? At this point, it might just be too late, and I can't see the future, and neither can you, but I guess we'll have to watch and find out.